So do you hold like, the joss sticks and light papers? I said yes. Oh, that seems very like backwards. That seems very like uncivilized.
And she said, terrorists, and then she pointed at me, and then she laughed.
Oh.
So this particular incident happened to me when I was with someone I was dating, and this person, he was Chinese, but he was not Hindu. So, I, as a Hindu, I felt like it was important for him to also understand about my religion, as I wanted to know a little bit more about his. We walked around and we went in front of a temple, and I was like, hey, let's go inside the temple. And he was like, no, I'm not going inside. So I was a little shocked. So I asked him why not, and then he was like, oh, my religion tells me I can't go inside. And so I was a little taken aback. I mean, I'm not telling him to go in and put his fingers together like this and to pray. It was just mainly to look at the architecture, to hear a little bit about the stories, to just observe how people are conducting their religion. So I was not letting it go, and I decided to press further. And it turns out that he told me that his parents have always told him to, like, let's say when they went to like overseas, they went to Taiwan, his parents always told him to step outside the temple and not to go in. So he told me that he was actually scared of the gods and the statues of the gods. Again, I was like, what is going on? Because like this is my religion, and these are the statues that I grew up with, and I couldn't imagine anyone being scared of it. And I remember we were standing at the crossing, and there were like tears collecting at the ends of my eyes, because I knew that I couldn't be with this person who wouldn't even want to step inside a temple with me.
Oh no. I'm so sorry to hear that you had to experience that. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, it's really something that really touched me. And when I heard that, I was like, my heart skipped a beat, because I do actually hear these kind of same sentiments in my religious community as well. For myself, I do interfaith work. So when I go to other people's temples or churches, people will ask me, people from my community or religious community will ask me, hey, why are you going to these places of worship?
Even when I grew up, I was told that, like, don't go to churches, don't go to temples. But just to explain where it comes from, it actually comes from a place of defense. Because in my religion, we have this thing called iman, which means faith. So if your iman is not strong, like, don't go to places that will waver it somehow. So but our parents would be like, okay, I have to take care of my children's imans, and I'm going to tell them, be safe, don't go. What if it waver? What if you convert out of it? And unfortunately, even though the intention was good, the effect was bad, because then you have this amazing, smart, wonderful girl who's so passionate about her religion, so knowledgeable about so many things, and you just miss that opportunity to learn because you are scared. Like, you can learn and still have boundaries, and I think like it's really his loss that he wasn't able to learn from you. You're a really like amazing person.
Faris, may I invite you? You had a story to share as well.
So when I was working in an organization, there was one Friday on Fridays, it's a dress down day, so you can wear any clothes you want, any kind of clothes you want. You don't have to wear formal working attire. So I was in half a baju kurung. Baju kurung means it's an ethnic wear for Malay Muslims. And I had a meeting, an official meeting, and I was sitting in a room, and we were talking about some socio-political issues in our official meeting. And what happened was that one of my colleagues was talking about terrorism, and she said, terrorists, and then she pointed at me, and then she laughed. Oh. So, and I was so shocked. I was flabbergasted. I didn't know how to react. I thought I didn't know whether it was a joke or it was like it was on purpose, and it was official meeting, and she was someone who was senior to me in the organization. After that meeting, some of my colleagues actually went up to me and they said that they were so sorry that it happened, and I was glad that they were sorry that it happened. But in my mind, I was thinking to myself that if I couldn't speak up for myself in that official meeting, why didn't my other colleagues like speak up for me, since I was the only minority in the room.
When you were sharing your story just now, I could see this whole group here just cringe all at the same time.
Like, I think everybody in the office was also embarrassed for her, and like that's why it felt so bad. Their ears were also burning up probably.
My ears were burning up in the office because I was so embarrassed. Like, I mean, like, can you imagine me in the baju kurung and then like sitting down there, and then like someone call me terrorist and then laugh and then continue with the meeting.
And you just freeze there, right? Because you don't want to make a mess, right?
If I had spoken up, like, what if someone pointed out to me, hey, you're being oversensitive, like, it's just a joke. So what is just a joke to you can actually be hurtful.
So what was that feeling like in you?
I felt so afraid. Like I still remember it was something in my stomach that like kind of like turned and toiled. I just felt fear because like I felt fear about like how me and my religious community were perceived by other communities. Yeah.
I feel I'm extremely sorry to go through that, especially considering this like power dynamics, you feel extremely trapped.
I'm really sorry that you have to go through that. I realize that a lot of things like this get thrown around, especially Muslims being a terrorist. And even sometimes in my own social circles and the people I hang out with, I hear this sometimes. And it makes me think of all the times that I don't actually say anything, that I keep quiet. And it makes me wonder why I keep quiet. And I think it's also because we want to keep the peace.
That's
And
true.
we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to seem as the outlier. We want to seem in the in group, And it just makes me think of all the little microaggressions that happen every single day, and the things that people have to keep quiet about.
Actually, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, like walking, on the streets. Then after I heard like this like couple of like group of guys, they actually like said the same thing. They associated like these, with terrorism. So I've just like I went up to them and I said, I don't think that's right. How can you like associate like this particular act, with this religion? If we keep silent, it actually is like a tacit approval to what is being said. So that's why I'm really like in favor of like calling the act like, out like straight away. But of course, I think you do it in a way that's not like aggressive.
My story is that I was a student and my teacher was very Islamophobic. He was very against Islam. So during lessons, like halfway through the lesson, he started opening up like websites of like Quranic verses and their translation. And the Quran is written in very old poetic Arabic. Old poetic Arabic. So try and translate that into English at face value. It will not make sense. And my Chinese teacher at that time explained it offhand, just like that. And it was a class, I was the only Muslim, and whatever he explained was wrong. And on top of that, he opened up the verses. He's like, how can you believe in a religion that's like this? A religion that their book literally says this, but just to give you hope because you felt that you're angry because nobody stood up for you. Because in my story, I had a Chinese friend, one of my Chinese classmates. He actually got up and left. He didn't hesitate, he didn't waver, he didn't even look at the teacher when he left. He just got up and then he left. And then he texted from outside. He's like, if you guys are uncomfortable, I'm outside, like sit with me. And that is one glimmer of hope. And to add on, when my story went viral, I got a few hundred DMs telling me, like, if I was there, I would have stood up for you. But with all my heart, I have seen the side of the community with burning rage that will protect and fight against discrimination. So there's hope for that.
Yeah, and we're hoping that at least by sharing these stories, it forces people to think like, what if I'm put in such a situation, right? How can I respond? If I'm not the one being discriminated against, maybe it's my friend. Is there something I can do to assist, to support?
How I felt when my teacher was doing that in front of the class, I didn't feel anything. And I want to highlight that that's the danger of not feeling anything. When you're a minority that's so used to being discriminated, so used to hearing Islamophobic comments, that something like that happened and the teenager me didn't feel anger or rage because we're numb to it. And that is dangerous and that is very sad.
It's a whole mixture.
It's a whole mixture, yes. Yes, oh my God, I wanted to share one other thing. When my story went viral, right, my mom texted me and she was so scared. She was like, Fatima, don't do this. Like, if he wants to fight, I'm like, mak tak ada duit. As in, I don't have money to like pay for a lawyer to fight for you. And then when I saw that text, I was at work and I was close to crying. I wanted to just look at her and say like, sampai bila? Like, until when do I have to swallow my sadness and my story? And then I told mak, like, don't worry about it. Like, I haven't done anything wrong and I want to proceed with this. And even then, my mom and dad, they were shaking in their boots, but they were like, our daughter wants to do it. And then my story got out, it went viral, and they were really proud of me. But I recognized that fear in my mom's eyes. Like, for generations, they've been told to shut up. They've been told to don't make trouble. And I saw that in my mom, and it hurts me so much.
No one should ever like go through this,
Yeah.
Yeah, no one should ever go through this. It's very painful and it's very upsetting.
Yeah.
It's very sad to think about it.
Yes.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
No, at this point, I think it's really a good time to emphasize how courageous all of you guys are, right? To sort of expose your stories, right? To have that sense of vulnerability because you don't know, right, the risks that are involved. So thank you once again. Gordon, at this point, like, how about yourself? I know you are holding back your tears a little bit, like me as well. I can sense it behind my eyes right now. Let's just take a breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. But yeah, Gordon, so yourself, you mentioned that you have also experienced some form of religious discrimination in your own life. Would you care to share with the rest of us?
So this happened during my public school. So I was doing like a normal lunch session, I was having like lunch with my classmates and friends, so like each of us like sharing our religion, So I said that like I'm Buddhism. Then straight away, I heard this comment like, oh, you're Buddhism. So do you hold like, the joss sticks and your light papers? I said yes. And then the follow-up comment was that like, oh, that seems very like backwards. That seems very like uncivilized and all. Like, why do you have to like burn a joss stick? It's also like something like pollution as well. So I heard that, I was like, yo, yeah, I was like super stunned. I kept quiet for a while. Yeah, I felt it was a bit problematic. Because it's sort of like an attack on my religion. That's firstly, and secondly, it's an attack on myself because actually I do believe in it and I do pray. So it made me upset.
Sorry, is it okay if I ask about the burning thing, like the significance? I feel like I'm really curious about it.
So actually, it's two things. Like first, like you show respect to the gods up there, and secondly, when you like burn like things, like you're actually like displaying a filial piety, to like your parents. Yeah. So I think that is they don't understand that, and that's why when they say that, it hits me hard because like, are you trying to say that the act of like showing filial piety to my loved ones, not my parents, like my late mom, like, is that wrong? Yeah. So it's a double ouch.
Did you say anything in response to your friends?
I only said one thing, like that's disrespectful. I don't like it. But I didn't like follow after that because I felt a bit like weird.
Yeah. But since you mentioned prayer, have any of you guys had an experience of this where people commenting about your prayer forms or going off for prayer in some way?
So like while I was in junior college, like I would pray at the staircase at one of the staircases at my junior college, and there was one day when one of my friends would ask me like, what were you doing? And I was like, oh, I was praying, because he saw me like doing these, to him probably weird motions lah. And then he was like, oh, praying ah. Then after that he was like, you Muslim ah? And after that he said that, he said that Muslims pray a lot, that's why they are so backward. And when I heard that, at first I found it like a bit, how do you put it? I found it like a very, like an affront to me. I was like angry, but at the same time I was amused, because like I thought to myself like, doesn't this person pray as well? Because like I knew that the person was, I knew that the person was Buddhist or Taoist because he celebrated like certain festivals and all that kind of thing that was related to Buddhism and Taoism. But I didn't have the language to actually tell him and kind of like convince him that like you can't stereotype people like that, you can't stereotype whole communities like that.
Which is funny, right? Because actually I need to tell everyone we pray 5 times a day, but each prayer is like 5 minutes. So it's the same time we used to go to the toilet, even lesser. In poly, I held so many exco positions. I was president, vice president, I was any leadership positions, I held a lot of it. And I still hear comments of people saying because Nurul keeps on praying, then she's not an etiquette of a leader. I still pray, I'm still successful, and I keep trying to prove them wrong, and it's a never-ending cycle. Just to tell you guys, actually, it's exactly because I pray that's why I can do so much in life. It made me more compassionate, it made me more loving, it made me more passionate. All of that is because I pray and I have a God. So that's why it hits me. Ooh, it was like a bullseye. If you wanted to offend Nurul, you mentioned her prayer, like I'll be so, until now it hurts a lot. Yeah.
Have you experienced something similar? Share with us your story in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share the video. Click the subscribe button below to follow our conversation.